This is the story of young India's long and tough journey to the moon. And it's also why Chandrayaan 3's landing and the subsequent celebrations, congratulatory messages go beyond the headlines.
Sir, we have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon.
Cycle se Chand tak. It's this social media post put up after Chandrayaan 3 successfully soft landed on the south pole of the moon. Now, the post has obviously struck a chord with all of us. The dream of India reaching for the stars and moon was coming true.
Today, we are actually a grand successful mission. I am so proud.
Whatever we have targeted, we have achieved it on dot.
भारत चंद्रमा के उस दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर पहुंचा है जहां आज तक दुनिया का कोई भी देश नहीं पहुंच सका.
Hello and welcome to the Times of India's YouTube channel. This is Beyond the Headlines, a show where we go beyond the news to explore the complexities, nuances, and untold details. We're here to answer your whys and hows and provide clarity on the bigger picture. Join the conversation by subscribing and sharing your views in the comments below. Tell us what you want to explore next with us. The dream that can be traced back to the 1920s with S.K. Mitra, C.V. Raman, and Meghnad Saha. The scientists who began modern space research and experiments. Later, in 1945, when India was charging towards independence, two scientists with an impossible dream, Vikram Sarabhai and Homi Bhabha, gave shape to this dream. For most of humanity, moon was a god or a goddess, like the sun and the stars, until 1609, when Galileo Galilei began studying space. The subsequent centuries witnessed discoveries in the solar system: planets, comets, asteroids, stars, sun, and the moon. It was the closest celestial body to the Earth, 384,400 kilometers to be exact. After over 3 centuries of research, experiments, and space missions, the human race began blasting off to reach out for the moon in 1959. And ever since, every next moon mission has advanced with every previous finding. By this time, India did not have any dedicated ministry for space programs. So there was no budget allocated for critical resources for scientific research and experiments. Space research throughout India was funded by the Department of Atomic Energy, which was founded by Jawaharlal Nehru with Homi Bhabha as its secretary. In the subsequent years, multiple research institutions opened up across the country. They were all funded by private groups and organizations. In 1962, Prime Minister Nehru set up India's first National Committee for Space Research. The first rocket launching station in India was in a church in Thiruvananthapuram, and the rockets were assembled in a high school. That's the St. Louis High School. It was at this small, unused church in Kerala's backwaters that India took its giant leap of faith to the heavens. Why this church? Well, for 2 reasons. First, the location. It was closer to the equator, which makes it closest to the moon. And second, this church was the only concrete building in the area. The local bishop had given away the prayer hall and his room for the scientific pursuits of APJ Abdul Kalam. And he had freshly joined Vikram Sarabhai's team at the Space Committee. ISRO's viral picture is from this time in history, when scientists assembled rockets in the high school to carry them on their bicycles to the launching station at the church. The next big development came in 1972, when Indira Gandhi set up a Space Commission and the Department of Space. By this time, Nehru Space Committee had become an organization, the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. She brought ISRO under the Department of Space. This move institutionalized space research, propelling India's program to its existing state-of-the-art form. In 1971, India joined the Soviets' Intercosmos Space Corps. After they offered to assist India in launching its first satellite into space during the Cold War. However, just as a launch date was looking like a possibility, ISRO's founder Vikram Sarabhai died. His death brought the whole Indian space program to a standstill. But the operations director, Dr. Udupi Ramachandra Rao, pressed ahead. On April 19, 1975, India launched its first unmanned satellite, Aryabhat, into space. On that day, India became only the world's 11th nation to send a satellite into orbit. This first mission opened up the heavens horizons for India and ISRO. By July 1980, India had established its satellite launching vehicle and had begun sending its own satellites into space, becoming only the 7th nation to have such capability. India was still poor, by the way, but the prevailing poverty could not taint or dampen our spirits. This famous photograph of ISRO scientists carrying India's first communication satellite called Apple on a bullock cart is from 1981. A picture which was animated into a cartoon to globally humiliate India. The cartoon was made by a Singapore-based artist called Heng Kim Song and was published by the New York Times. A farmer and a cow knocking at the door of a room that was marked Elite Space Club. The title said India's budget mission to Mars. Why? Because India's Mangalyaan was one of the cheapest interplanetary space missions in 2014. By that time, only the US, Russia, and Europe had sent missions to Mars. India's culture of calculated risks and resource optimization was made fun of. The global humiliation, too, couldn't tarnish India's resilience. India was the first country to discover water on the moon in 2008, a definitive discovery made by Chandrayaan-1. It sent the world into a frenzy. Chandrayaan-2 was considered half a success, even though its Vikram lander crash-landed in 2019. And the reason it was considered a half success is because the orbiter, which separated from Vikram lander, is still orbiting around the moon to this day. The high-resolution images taken by this orbiter were used in updating the software and algorithms, and of course to decide on a better spot to land the recent moon lander. The observations made during the crash landing are another reason behind the success of Chandrayaan-3. US and the Soviets failed 15 times before successfully soft landing their spacecrafts on the moon. And Russia's Lunar 25 crash landed on the moon just 3 days before Chandrayaan's success. Today, the world is at India's feet with accolades and applause. India is among the few nations that have sent a rover to the moon, and only one of 4 to achieve interplanetary orbit. After the Soviet Union, that became Russia, the United States, and China. The same newspapers are today celebrating India's success and resilience. Now, ISRO's next big launch is Gaganyaan, India's first astronaut mission to space. Space is an unforgiving and challenging environment that demands innovation and resilience. intense radiation, microgravity, and extreme temperatures. And then there is space debris. And India's space missions carry the hopes and aspirations of over 1 billion people. They symbolize India's determination to push boundaries and be at the forefront of space exploration. As India continues its journey into the unknown, the world is fixated on the next giant leap for mankind.